Hey, thanks for coming back to Head First Fishing. I'm Captain Joseph Rains. This is my good friend Captain Scott Subor of Head First Fishing Adventures. We are here talking about how you can get ready for kingfish season. There's kingfish in the Gulf of Mexico, off the Tampa Bay, pretty much year-round, except for the coldest months. However, spring and fall are when the big migratory schools come through, and it's my favorite time of year.
One of mine too.
I love it. I wait for it. I don't know. I wait for it and wait for it, and it comes.
Well, it's here now.
I enjoy it, and then it's like it's gone so quickly. But I've been waiting all summer for October, and it's finally here. So let's go ahead and jump in to talk about different lines people use in different situations. Some people are monofilament diehard. Some people are braid diehards. But I think they both have their merits, and you can use them. Depending on the situation.
Sure, there's benefits to both of them. Monofilament, you've got a little more elasticity to it. You've got stretch, and that really, and it's a little less visible. And the stretch really is the major benefit to it, because in a system where a fish is moving 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, any benefit that you can add to making that more elastic from the hook all the way to the reel is going to help you out. The benefits of braid, there is no stretch, so you're going to get a sharper hook set on them. There's no memory in the line. You're not going to have a coil. And you're also going to be able to fit a whole heck of a lot more onto your reel. And for that reason, I prefer to use braid when I'm kingfishing. I will use a piece of monofilament or fluorocarbon in my system, but that goes in front of the braid and behind the wire. And again, the reason I like using braid is because of line capacity. These fish can rip off 300, 400, 500 yards of drag if you hook a monster, and
They will do it.
And you don't get turned on them right. But line capacity. Let these fish go. You're in no hurry to get them to the boat, so let him run. If he's going to make 300-yard runs, let him go, and then just chase him down. Most guys out here are fishing from power boats off the central west coast of Florida. We do have a small core group of guys who go out and target them in the kayaks off the beaches, which is a whole heck of a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of sharks and tarpon in the mix too.
Go for a saltwater sleigh ride if you hook into a big one.
St. Petersburg sleigh ride, absolutely. But I prefer using braid. And what I typically throw is, or run on my reels is 20-pound test. I want at least 450 yards on there. I'm going to connect, if I'm using live bait, let's talk about that. If I'm slow trolling smaller blue runners, or I'm slow trolling Spanish sardines or threadfin herring, I'm running a single treble hook as a stinger. Typically, I'm using a piece of 30 or 40 pound fluorocarbon in front of the braid. I tend to connect that with an FG knot. It's just a seamless knot. It's not going to cut you up if it goes through your hands. It's going to come right through the guides, nice and easy. And then I'm going to put, as I said, a single stinger, about 18 inches of wire to a 1/0. That's an owner 1/0 J hook that's offset, and then about 5 inches to the stinger, and that's a number 6 mustad treble hook. You can use VMCs, Trocars. I find this one works pretty well.
Don't use plastic.
Just don't use plastic. Use something sharp.
They're out there. Plastic hooks are out there.
Goodness gracious. You want something that's going to find its mark, and a lot of times the kingfish don't. So if a kingy misses your bait, that's what's going to save the day. It's going to hook him right here in the shoulder or under the chin, and that's why you want a nice loose drag, running like 3 pounds of drag, and just let him go. That will find the mark. So as I said, my preference, my choice is braid. There are a lot of guys who like that monofilament, and that's fine too. Just use whatever suits you. And get good at it. Just practice. If you're fishing for some of the bigger fish, especially I like using braid, because I feel like I've got a little more control over that fish once he starts pinwheeling and coming up, especially if he's snagged or foul hooked in the back or the chin. So yeah, those are my favorite ways to fish for those fish out in the Gulf of Mexico during the migratory runs that we get in October and November, even into December. We were catching fish on New Year's Eve last year.
Yeah.
If
it was a late season.
Yeah, it was. It stayed warm long. If I'm pulling plugs, which I love pulling out there, again, I like using braid. I can beef up the size of the braid a little bit because it is putting a little more pressure on the rig. And a lot of times I'll go up to 80-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament leader and an 80-pound wire. I don't want to get snipped off, pulling a $20, $25 plug.
Sure.
And if it's a good bite, it's not going to make a difference in the number of fish that you're hooking. It really will not. But it will increase the amount of fish that you're putting in the boat.
Definitely. On the other side, the monofilament side, the nice thing is you can just run a straight 30 or 40-pound mono line to your wire leader and catch fish. I would definitely use some sort of fluorocarbon or something like that connection from my braid to the wire leader. However, I catch plenty of king mackerel on just straight 30 and 40-pound monofilament tied off to my wire leader, and they don't care. So it never hurts to use fluorocarbon at all. It's more stealthy. It never hurts to use it. However, just save yourself from tying a couple knots. If you want to use mono, do that, and that works great for me. So I use a lot of mono when I'm offshore, and I usually keep all my spinning rods with braid and all my conventionals with mono. That's pretty standard. Definitely don't use braid much when I'm seriously bottom fishing. However, braid is just fine when you're doing kingfish because they generally don't put their nose in the rocks.
They tend not to.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about the merits of braid versus mono. The next thing we'll talk about is the leader material, wire leaders. You got single strand, you got multi-strand, different sizes, different strokes for different folks. But I would say in general, you don't want to go lighter than probably a 30-pound wire leader. Why is that? Because kingfish have shears for mouth, and they have a pretty good bite on them. And while you will catch kingfish on a light leader, eventually you're going to have one that's going to chew right through it. And they were doing that to me last season, and I got my heart broke a couple times because I was using light wire leader, and I paid the price for it. So you got to learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. And if you hook a fish and you land a fish, or you miss one, a lot of times he'll curl that steel up into a pigtail, and you need to...
This is Captain Joe with Head First Fishing Adventures. Probably one of the biggest things you need to catch kingfish successfully is a quality wire leader.
Yeah, bite
Am
guard.
I wrong?
Bite guard.
Am I wrong?
It helps.
No?
It helps.
Yes?
We've caught them every once in a while by accident.
You're lucky if you can
Mono,
catch a
yeah.
kingfish on just straight mono or fluoro leader. You've done something that not many people will do, just because it's not often he's not going to get his teeth near that.
That's when circle hooks do their job.
Yeah, not very often that happens. It does happen though. Probably one of the most popular leaders out there, Marlin, makes great leader.
Coffee wire.
I use typically anywhere from the 30-pound all the way up to the 40. In that range, I find that I get good bites and I have good strength. Although some days, with the 30, I've been chewed off pretty hard by some big fish. But in general, I catch them. But when that chew off does happen, break out another bag, tie on the 38 or the 40.
I like the number 4.
Number 4, yeah.
It's a number 3, which I tend to use if we're fishing a bunch of schoolies, or you got a bunch of Spanish mackerel around. If you're trying to cane pole Spanish, it's hard to beat the number 3.
Right.
But for kingies, I like bumping up to the number 4, and you'll still get snipped off from time to time. So I said before, pulling plugs, pulling expensive stuff behind the boat, hardware, beef it up. Don't be afraid to go to 80. If the bite's good, it's not going to matter, and you're going to save yourself some money.
And we're talking two different ratings. I'm talking about, when I said a 30 to 40, that's the pound test. And he said a number 3 or a number 4. This is a number 3, and this is 31. So you'll have a rating on there. So that's the range that we generally deal with. It gives you a diameter on there, and it also gives you a color. Coffee colored wire is the way to go. Uncoated. You want uncoated wire. Just that... I don't know. I don't like it. It gives it a thickness when it's coated and a little bit of a shine, and that's not something you want.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want the low profile rig you can, and that goes for just about all types of fishing. You want low profile.
Make it look natural.
Absolutely. Marlin, high quality wire. If you're going to buy one brand, you couldn't go wrong with that one. There's several brands out there, but that's a good one. That's a lot of people trust that wire.
And you can connect this directly to your fluorocarbon, your monofilament leader with an Albright knot if you really want to. I prefer to use a swivel. Swivel that I'm using, it's going to be a barrel style swivel. Spro actually makes some power swivels that are little teeny weeny things. They look like traffic barrels. And they're super, super, super strong. Mm-hmm. They may be that big and rated to 150 pound test. Those things are great. Yeah. And if you want to spend a little extra money on those, fantastic. Bigger swivels, every once in a while, are going to get snipped off if there's mackerel in the fray. So
yeah, they see that little swivel bouncing around, they just instinctually just bite at it just because it's there. It's
quality components, but attach your wire with a haywire twist to your swivels, and put a little 4-inch shot or a 5-inch shot down there to your stinger rig, and that's all there is to it. Get out there and have some fun.
Yep. Another wire that I like to use is a multi-strand or 7-strand American fishing wire, and that allows me to tie a simple little knot called a figure-8 knot, and we're going to give you a tutorial of that sometime. I'll probably put a link to it in this video. But the figure-8 knot is something I learned years ago from pier fishing for kingfish and Spanish. It's just a simple little knot. You go through the eye of whatever you want to tie to, you put it around the back, and then pull it down through the loop you just created, and then pull it tight. And that's it. Snip off the excess and you're done. It's an easy way to tie knots with wire leader, and it's most effective with your multi-strand wire.
And cable, like nylon coated stuff that some guys use. Yeah, if you're going to use that for anything from kings to sharks, it'll save you from tying that haywire twist and swivels and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good knot, and it holds.
Yep. As long as you get that eye, that figure-8, as long as you get it slid down tight, it's not going anywhere. If you leave it loose, it's sloppy, it'll probably pop out. But if you get it tight, you're good to go. I've caught monster sharks on it, big kingfish. It works.
Save you from buying crimps and crimpers.
Yep. Very cool. Now, what would you say, Scott, is a proper leader length for a wire leader for kingfish?
I'm usually using about an 18-inch piece. My whole system is usually under 2 feet long, unless I'm using bigger baits, Spanish mackerel and bluefish and jacks and ladyfish and giant runners, stuff like that. But if I'm using smaller baits, your white baits, your greenbacks, your Spanish sardines, your cigar minnows and scads, typically I'm just running a single stinger on a 1/0, and that's about 5 inches to the stinger, and then maybe about 8 inches to the swivel up here. So that whole thing's under 2 feet long. That's really all you need. Sometimes those fish do get finicky and you need to shorten it up a little bit, but that's a good all-purpose size right there. If I'm using some of those bigger baits, I really love slow troll and Spanish mackerel. It's probably my favorite way to catch them. And you can't get one too big. So if you're trolling one that's 1 pound or if you're trolling one that's 5 pounds, you're going to need to tailor your stingers. Some guys will run 2 or 3 or 4 stinger rigs down the side of that bait. And that's just as simple as tying another haywire twist right there to the hook eye, putting another piece of wire down here, tying another treble hook, and doing the same thing, and just building it longer. Because when a kingfish bites, he's taking off the motor. He's biting the back of the bait usually. And once he immobilizes that bait, he's free to swim back around, pick it up. So if you've got 4 or 5 stingers going down a big old giant ribbon fish or something like that, and he snips the motor off, you're still going to hook him with 1, 2, or all of those stinger rigs. And as I said, you want to tailor the size of your rig to the size of the bait that you're using. You certainly don't want 2 or 3 stingers on a greenback.
Hooks. Next subject.
Mm-hmm.
Quality hooks.
Yep.
How important is that?
Oh, you want to hook fish or you want to miss them? An offset J hook is what I tend to use. That's an owner right there. AKI twists are a good hook. I really like those. Hockey twists. And that is a must-add number 6 treble hook. A lot of guys use VMCs. Trocar makes a really good one.
You center that up in the camera a little bit. Let's see if they can see that. Right there in the square. There you go. See if it's focusing. Anyway, it might be a little bit close. Might have to back off a little bit. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
So that right there is a number 6 must-add treble hook. Some guys will use VMCs or Trocar certainly makes a good one. These, bang for your buck, are hard to beat. They absolutely stick fish. And that J hook that I'm using, as I said, is an offset 1/0.
Bring it back a little.
And
A little more. There you go.
The J hook that I'm using is an offset 1/0, and that's an owner. I really like the AKI or Aki twist. It tends to set just like a circle hook would. As long as it gets in there and slides out, it'll find the corner of the mouth just about every time. You don't gut hook or deep hook or gill hook a lot of fish with that offset hook. So that's my favorite rig right there. Just real simple. 1/0 and number 6.
And strong.
And strong. Yeah.
Don't want them to bend it.
No, but back off and just let those fish do their thing. Once they tire out, you get them to the boat. You'll put them in.
Well, thanks for coming by Head First Fishing today and checking out our video, How to Prepare for King Mackerel. We got more videos coming up in the series. Keep an eye on our uploads, and we'll catch you later.